Welcome back to The Fourth Wall. This is our second episode. I am pro wrestling's premier prognosticator, RJ Deluise, the MC of Dynasty Pro Wrestling and the host of tonight's podcast. Joining me, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome the most decorated man in the Dynasty Pro Wrestling locker room, the heavyweight champion.
Mike Verna.
And Mike Verna as well, who's also here. And of course,
I
would be remiss if I do not mention his manager, the manager of the champion, P.J.
I know
Stackpole.
it's difficult for you to do that, to actually mention that I'm around lately.
That video hasn't aired yet. That match hasn't aired yet.
Once we see that on the Roku channel, people will react appropriately to perhaps leaving you off the intro. But of course, we have P.J. Stackpole along with his charge, the heavyweight champion, the man of steel, the class of Dynasty Pro Wrestling, the epitome of pro wrestling at its finest, Mr. Mike Verna.
You
Mike
are
Verna.
good. RJ, you are good. I think I got to lose him and hire you.
I will hype man for you any day. I will Flavor Flav you the moon, brother. Now, let's for everyone who doesn't know, people tuning into this, let's just give a little bit of an overview here. Who is the Man of Steel, Mike Verna?
Who is the Man of Steel, Mike Verna? Well, I'm your typical 25-year-old handsome devil. I live in Brooklyn, New York, born and bred. I like to eat. I'm Italian, clearly. I lift weights. I love the Mets, as you can tell by that fantastic hat you're wearing. I am a very good core Republican. I do have my values. Let's put it that way. I've been wrestling for 3.5 years. This is the boring part. What do you, Mark? I mean, RJ, what are we doing here? You're asking me. When NB hit me up, I was told that this is going to be a raunchy, no holds barred type of Dynasty interview. You want to see? You want to see
from this man? What did you expect? Any better?
What do you want? My life story? In fact, I could do you one better.
I asked one.
It's just listen. Let me just put this into perspective, RJ. In less than just a couple weeks' time, he's entering the ring with the TNA heavyweight champion of the world, and you're asking who are you? Who are you? The people know who he is.
For 400 plus days, they know who I am, my friend. 400 plus days. Just to answer your question, because I have been.
I only asked one question.
RJ. Listen, RJ. You know, I've been a man of the people lately. As you see, I wore this shirt here. It's a little homage to Muhammad Ali, but I have been the people's champion lately. So I will do this for the people. If you YouTube Mike Verna, you will find a brief documentary. It won't be much of your time. That will tell you everything you need to know about me. I promise you that. But for the people who do want to know, Man of Steel MV on Twitter. That's at Man of Steel MV at Twitter. Ask me whatever you want. I'm an open book. RJ's a great guy. I will answer his questions, but I know that in 1 week's time, there's going to be a hell of a match. In fact, the biggest match in Dynasty history. So I want to skip all that. Let's cut to the chase.
All right. We can do that. If either of you would let me ask a question without jumping down my throat, I feel like I'm over here trying to facilitate this thing with a couple of clowns sitting in some rental Obama basement. This is a mess, Philip. Let me talk.
When I see you next week.
Man, this is unbelievable. All right, so if you want to talk about, I was going to take us through a little bit of a timeline to update the fans on how you first became the champion, the night that you first had to wrestle your way through all of the other competitors in the Dynasty Pro Wrestling locker room. You found yourself at the winning end of all of those matches, and you found yourself at the end of the night taking on the elite athlete Mike Orlando for the first ever crowning. Ooh, wow. Shots fired.
We'll get
First ever Dynasty Pro Wrestling heavyweight title champion. And you have not relinquished that title. You have defended that title admirably on every show since. This is what I'm here to talk about. If either one of you clown shoes will allow me to say things out loud, I will help tell the story. If you two knuckleheads stop hitting the gym and let the guy who knows how to talk do the talking. So, Mike Verna.
Should have did this with Mr. Man.
Stackpole, Mike Verna. Let's talk about that first night. You came in, you wanted to set the record straight about who the top man in the company was going to be. And at the end of the night, there you were, both of you in the center of the ring. Let's talk about that night, July 25th, a year and a half ago.
All right. Well, that's I'll tell you exactly how it went. For the past 444 days, 444 days, that's 4 horsemen right there all around. I have been the Dynasty Heavyweight Champion, the first ever and only Dynasty Heavyweight Champion. July 25th came around that year, and Dynasty took, gave me the blessing of actually walking in. And I got to say something about Chris Envy. Chris Envy took a shot on me. Chris Envy reached out. He took a shot on me, and he gave me the ball. And for 444 days, I have ran with that ball. I've scored numerous touchdowns, couple of home runs, couple of dingers. You would know damn right about that. And that's first of all. But back to July 25th, I knew that it was going to be a tournament. And I remember sitting with P.J. Stackpole right here, actually upstairs, not in this basement, upstairs. And we looked at the roster page, and we turned around and said, you know what? This is going to be pretty damn easy. We looked at guys like Captain Wayno, who I will say at the time I thought was a joke. However, one of the best guys in that locker room. And wait until you see what he's capable of. That's first of all. Then I saw a couple of, questionable human beings like myself at the time, Mr. Man and Dorian. And who else was there? That Sean Burke, who I actually qualified, beat to be and in a qualifying match to get to the tournament. Then there was Kyle Brad, who I will say now in my change of heart, one of the top independent stars in the area. Was a pain in my ass for quite some time. There's no doubt about that. Got through him, got through Captain Wayno, and then I got to Mike Orlando. And before we talk about Mike Orlando's change of heart, and before I let PJ Stackpole do the bulk of the talking, because that really is what he's here for. Mike Orlando is elite. He is one of the best all around in the nation, in the country. There's no doubt about that. I've never seen a man that size be able to do the stuff he does. Why he had that change of heart? Why he decided to join Truly Independent, I'm not really sure, because as you can tell from what they look like, he doesn't really fit in very well. PJ, talk about July 25th.
Well, although I do get paid to talk for you,
sorry,
I think the truth is I get paid to condense what Mike Verna takes a long time to say because he is articulate, so I'll be very brief. 6 words. We came, we saw, we conquered. That's what that day in July was about. As far as Mike Orlando, another simple phrase. If you can't beat him, you go somewhere else.
Agreed.
You leave. You cry, and you hook up with some other losers.
Here's the
and
problem.
He's very bitter.
Here's the problem with Mike Orlando, and I need to tell you this, though. I need to tell you this because I don't think you understand. Mike Orlando still holds the Money in the Bank opportunity, which he won.
I know that.
Which he won at Fight Pub back in Massachusetts.
I know that.
He won that title in the ladder match.
Well, it's hard to cash in when you don't show up.
I agree.
Anywhere, every time Mike Verna goes to Dynasty Pro Wrestling, Mike Orlando finds himself in another state. That's not by accident. That's not by accident.
I can't argue with that. We had the general manager Mike King on the last fourth wall, the first one that we did, and far less entertaining because that dude is a snore fest. The two of you, it's a pleasure to have you on here. But what I want to say is he mentioned that one of the things he got most fired up about was that Mike Orlando just can't seem to keep a booking. Now, you guys understand the professional aspects of this game. When you're booked to be at an arena and tickets are sold and you're on the poster, how do you not show up?
You know what? I have to actually step in on this, and I'll break the fourth wall a little bit. This actually happened to me very recently. Very recently. I was ECWA Tag Team Champion back in July of this year. And I was given the opportunity to join the full-time roster of Chikara, which, as you guys know, I've been doing a pretty good job with that so far. I mean, if you want to get somewhere, it's a big deal. No pun intended, which is actually my gimmick faction over there. I was faced with the opportunity to join that, and I pretty much had, from Mike Quackenbush at the time, said, if you don't do this first show, I can't give you the opportunity. So now I'm faced with this decision. Do I lose my commitment with ECWA as a tag team champion, or do I join something that's going to benefit my career? And basically, I unfortunately tried to work around it, but they didn't really work with me at the time. And I do hold serious regret for ECWA because they were great professionals. They treated me very well. I have nothing but great things to say about them. I wish we could have worked it out, but I understand where Mike's coming from. However, my feelings on Mike Orlando is that from the second we both entered the Dynasty locker room, we both had one common goal, and that was to win this title that I've held for 444 days. And when I was a little bit of a piece of shit, I'm going to be honest with you, I was a piece of shit. I did some questionable things to maybe win this title, but at the same time, I've defended it every single time I've had it, and I've beaten people the clean way. And the people may have influenced me with that. Maybe my real talent kind of influenced me to go the correct way about this. But for some reason, Michael Lando kind of had a switch of his own. And at this point, I don't know why he's somewhat avoiding.
I think thank God it didn't happen, but our formerly potential President Hillary Clinton said it best. When they go low, we go high. Fair enough?
Well, so you've left me an open here, and I'm going to take it.
Mike Verna and P.J. Stackpole made Dynasty great again. Am I right?
I can't argue that. No one will argue that. You're putting butts in the seats, and you're putting on shows every night. What I want to say, though, and this is going to be an opportunity for you to address this for the first time in public. Okay. There was an opportunity in the main event of our last show. You were in there with MJF, a guy who I think is just an absolute dynamite talent.
Yeah.
And he was taking you to the edge of what I thought could have been your first loss.
Nearly broke my arm. Let's say it right here. Nearly broke my arm.
He was very clearly focusing on that and taking away your strength, which is an important part of your game. When it came time to possibly do a little chicanery, a little back door action, and PJ, you're the king of the backdoor action, so I'm going to come to you. You took the opportunity to throw the title into the ring.
That's one in a row, RJ.
You threw the title into the ring, and you said to Mike, hit him in the face. And Mike thought for a second, it seemed, looked around, and held up that title and said, I'm going to beat you fair and square, and didn't take your advice. You, the manager who's led him this far, who's been an impetus for his winning ways, he looked at that gift horse in the mouth, and when you went low, he went high. So this is for both of you. What's your relationship like? What was that ride home like between the two seemingly unshakable, unmovable bestest of friends?
I know this will come as some surprise to you, RJ, but friends sometimes have disagreements, and sometimes they happen very publicly. And what you saw was very unfortunate, and what you didn't see is what you're not entitled to know about, and what you're not entitled to see. That discussion happened privately. You saw what happened publicly.
Who's the boss in this tandem?
The man who signs the checks. It's you. I've never denied that.
Okay, that's good. So you know what?
In any relationship, RJ, perhaps
if I'm the boss, why are you going to cut me off just like that? That's what I'm trying to figure out here.
I believe you said prior that I wanted me to carry the interview, if you will.
Look, the whole point is this. He kind of hit us. Here's the deal. When we broke in,
do you see what he's doing? You see what he's doing? He's driving a wedge in a solid foundation. That's what he's doing. Don't let him get to you.
I'm not wed. There's no wedges here, gentlemen.
trying to get to RJ. PJ is a big reason why I have that belt. But I'll be honest with you. When I look back and see that title victory, the belt that I have held for, again, 444 days, almost 445 if we still continue this conversation.
Yeah, we're almost to midnight.
I look back at that video and I see the only reason why I have that belt is because of you. And I look back at myself and I kind of feel like shit. I'm not gonna lie, because over the past 444 days, I've seen how good I am in the Dynasty locker room, and how much I'm able to benefit myself when I go out there and wrestle correctly, like I was trained to. And when I look back at a memorable moment in my career, which was winning one of the most prestigious belts in New York State, not even New York City, New York State, I see a big asterisk. And I'm a baseball fan. You're a baseball fan. We know when there's an asterisk next to a stat, it's not usually one of the best things. So I'm trying to, going forward, build my legacy the way it's supposed to be. I plan to keep this belt for another 400 days, and I'm going to do it the right way. As much as respect I have for my friend, my manager, my agent, however we want to call it, he is the brains behind the Man of Steel. There's no doubt about it. But he needs to start realizing that we can do this and we can be successful in a more straight way.
Well, and speaking of you being straight and hopefully keeping this interview straight, there is the appearance that you have a Lex Luthor type bald gentleman that you carry around with you that is there in your best interest at this point. And I won't argue that. He has done nothing to try to subvert your title reign. If anything, it might have been, some might say, misguided of him to throw the belt in, because if you had been disqualified, yes, you would have lost, but you would have kept the title, which maybe PJ's okay with that. I mean, knowing wrestling rules as both of you do, you could have taken the DQ and still walked out of there with the title. But what you're lining up for your first 100 days after the 444 is that you're planning to assert yourself as the kind of champion
the absolute best.
That you have claimed to be the absolute best. So along those lines,
as Donald Trump says, winners win, period, amen. And I will say this, not to cut you off, RJ, because you are a fantastic host. His loyalty is unmatched. He has my back, but he needs to realize, you need to realize, in order for us to stay successful, and I mean this in the most sincere way, you got to be on the same page with me. I mean this off the camera. You gotta stay on the same page with me. We gotta do what we need to do. End of story.
Wow. We might have had our Access Hollywood moment just now. What I want to say to both of you is I'm not going to drive any more wedges, because you're clearly a team that's going to work together. You're a Biden-Obama team. What I want to say about you guys,
I'll let that one pass.
Trump-Pence would have been more appropriate at this juncture.
But maybe. Okay. So what I want to say is this. What I want to hear from both of you, and we have this Eddie Edwards match, which, as we alluded to earlier, is going to be the biggest match in the history of Dynasty Pro Wrestling. There's no other way to say it. We have the standard bearer in New York wrestling right now, taking on a guy who is the TNA heavyweight champion, a man who has traveled the independent scene, who has made the name for himself in national television, in the independent scene, somebody who is respected universally. He is stepping in there with Mike Verna. This, to me, is a marquee matchup anywhere you put it on, and Dynasty Pro Wrestling is hosting this matchup. Is this guy the guy who's going to give you the run for the money? We're going title versus title here, gentlemen.
You may.
Look, I've hyped this matchup as much as I possibly can to everyone I've spoken to, and of course on social media. And the one thing I keep getting back is, well, we know how this is going to end. And having just gone through this election, I find it ironic that we're going through this again. It seems so obvious in the world of indie wrestling that when the TNA guy comes in, the hometown guy, he's going to be on his back, because certainly Mike Verna can't take the TNA world title. Certainly Donald Trump can't beat Hillary Clinton and the political establishment. But what if? Because we're not dealing with just any other wrestler. We're dealing with Mike Verna, the standard bearer of New York. We're dealing with circumstances unlike anything else you've imagined. So if you think in your mind that the outcome of this match is written in stone and predetermined, you are wrong, because I guarantee you Mike Verna will take the TNA heavyweight title in this title versus title match. I guarantee it. And if you don't believe me, buy a ticket and come see it. And if he doesn't walk out with it, I'll give you your money back. That's a guarantee.
And the thing that I want to talk about now that we've established this main event, which is going to absolutely blow the roof off of the Amsterdam Elks Lodge. We had such a great event there last time. The fans were knowledgeable. They were in every spot, in every match, very interested in the outcome. This is going to be even bigger than that event because of the main event, and that's going to involve the two of you that we talked about. I don't want to talk about that match anymore. We've given it the time that it needs. You're saying you're walking out with the TNA title. I heard it from PJ first. I'm going to take him at his word, and I would never bet against the champ. I've seen you in there
before.
No, and that's the thing. I have no reason to believe. That Mike Verna won't walk out with the TNA heavyweight title that night, and it's his to win. So what I want to talk about is some of the other talent.
Bigger because of Eddie or because of me?
Both. I mean, I think it's not a big match if you're not in it. So if you put somebody else in that matchup, I don't know that it's. I'm not that interested in seeing it, to be completely honest with you. It's got to be title for title. It has to be the best in our business.
We're closing in on Chapter 3, which is February 18th. It's coming up. Dynasty has done a lot in the past. How long have you been around? 3, 4, 5 years now. I've been around for about 2. So for my 2 years here, so 2 or 3 years is what I'm getting in from the intel. I've been around for a year and a half of it, 2 years of it. I've seen Dynasty evolve to a top company. When it started in 2013 all the way now to 2016, I've seen what it looked like from when it started, I was there part of pub crawl. Okay, that's all I got to say. Chris Envy and Mike King back in headquarters will definitely get a little LOL about that, but I was there for that. And to see where we are now, there is no doubt in my mind. Dynasty Wrestling is the standard bearer of the upstate New York area. There is no doubt about it. And for this match to happen in Dynasty, it's unprecedented. It's champion versus champion. It's the biggest main event in, dare I say, upstate New York history. And test me on that. Find the bigger main event. Dynasty heavyweight champion versus the TNA Impact heavyweight champion. Belt for belt. One person's walking out. I can't say much about it. The Amsterdam Elks Lodge, one of the best venues we've ever ran in. The fans, like you said, I cannot talk highly enough about them. The groups of people, I've never heard the Dynasty building shake the way it did. I'm getting excited talking about it. This belt, it's coming in on my shoulder. It's leaving on my shoulder. I can't talk any highly.
Game day. I think we've addressed it. Eddie Edwards, you already know. You already know. We all already know.
So, and when we look forward, what we want to think about is so you beat Eddie Edwards at Winter Wars. According to you, that's a guaranteed lock. So we're going to just assume that happens. You're walking in now with the Dynasty heavyweight title. You have the TNA heavyweight title. I want to think about other people in the locker room who have a shot at this title, who have a legitimate right to say, I need to be in there with Mike Verna. Now, I know that we're bringing in some talent, some of which has been announced online. Chase Delmonte, the current Chaotic Wrestling heavyweight champion, is going to be in action. He's not going to be a part of the main event, obviously. He's going to be booked elsewhere, but he's a name that comes to my mind as somebody who could give you a run for his money. He's a heavyweight champion of his own right. He's been in the business 12 years.
The first thing I want to say about Chase is I'm actually going to be making my Chaotic Wrestling debut in December 16th out in your neck of the woods, Massachusetts. Is that where you live, RJ?
I'm in New York, baby. I'm upstate. That's all right.
You fancy in Massachusetts.
But I am. But what I will say is that I got my start in Chaotic Wrestling about a decade ago.
Chaotic is doing fantastic things. Chaotic is one of the top New England companies. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. So I'm honored. I'm looking forward to doing that. And to touch back on Chase, once I do beat Edwards and I walk in and Dynasty heavyweight champion, there's no doubt in my mind that another title for title match should happen. Monte, I am extending my hand cordially. Once Winter Wars is over, if you want to go, I'm all for it. I know what you can do. I know the talent you have. I know what that belt represents for Chaotic, and I know how you represent it. And you know damn well how I represent this. So by all means, that handshake is he'll sign the contract. He'll sign the contract. We'll make that happen. But we're talking about the Dynasty locker room, and I may bite my tongue saying this, and I may go back on my word saying this, but as I touched on before, watching my match with Mike Orlando, there is still a little bit of a cringe for me. And even though Mike Orlando isn't the man he used to be and isn't the man I know, I do want to give him a fair rematch. I do want to go one-on-one with him with no bells, no whistles, no cheating, no nothing. I know he may be a piece of shit, but I was a piece of shit back then. So we're going to bury that hatchet. We're going to go one-on-one like the two athletes we are, and that's it.
No, I think one of the luxuries we have is what he has. And
we'll get to and before doing it again, but hold on. We're good. Before, I'm going to let PJ talk first, but there is some names in mind maybe beyond the Dynasty locker room that we can touch base on, but it seems like I interrupted you.
One of the luxuries I think we have as the heavyweight champion and as his manager is that we don't have to go out looking for talent. Everyone's looking at us. They're coming to us. The line is long, and we just have to wait until they sort it out amongst themselves. And may the best man win. They come to us. We don't need to look at the locker room and look around. Who should we go again? It's not our business. They come to us. That's what we're waiting for. So the question the Dynasty locker room needs to be asking themselves is who is going to be the one to step up? Is it going to be Mike Orlando? Is it going to be Kyle Brad? Is it going to be the Waynos? Who is it going to be? That's the question they need to ask themselves, not that you should be asking us.
Better not be Mr. Man, I'll tell you that much.
Mr. Man.
It's not going to be Mr. Man. First of all, Mr. Man's taking his geriatric medicine. He's probably halfway to Sleepy Town right now.
A buffoon. And I want to tell his son, check the Pop-Tarts, kid. I don't know what's going on there, but clearly something is amok. All right, I've seen videos. It's very disturbing. I don't know what Envy's got going on and Mr. Mike King's going on in that locker room. This Mr. Man is an unsavory sort.
I will say this now to touch back on the other question, the other statement I made before about outside the Dynasty locker room. I mentioned before that Dynasty really is the standard bearer in the upstate New York area, and it's only a matter of time before people see what it's like to work for Dynasty Pro Wrestling and how professional, how the production is unmatched. The locker room as it is right now, unmatched. The professionalism in the office, which you don't see much of. I'm telling you, in New York City,
can't even deny it.
You don't see much of it these days. But the utmost professional between Chris Envy and Mike King, two top guys, two top promoters, two genuine stand-up men. When the people of New York see what Dynasty brings to the table, the amount of people that are going to be knocking on my door, it is going to have to be a waiting list. Let's put it that way. And a few names that I can think of off the top of my head. JT Dunn, one of the best independent professional wrestlers right now. We just went to war recently for 5-Bar Wrestling. Love to do it again. David Starr is another great one. Formerly Juicy Product Together. He's another great talent that's out there. Man, you let me touch deep into my list right now. There's a lot of people I want to wrestle I can't even think of at the moment. God damn. Any names you think that can take me on?
Not successfully, no.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Tony Nese. Bull James.
Line them up. Mike King, if you got the money, baby, I've got the time.
Mike King needs to open up the pocketbook.
My goal now is just to calm it down a little bit, is in all reality, whatever Chris and Mike are able to bring to the table for me, because I know that they're able to find suitable opponents no matter what, I'm willing to take them down. But I do like the mentality that they're in right now. Bringing in guys like Eddie Edwards, maybe a guy like Bobby Lashley, who was a Dynasty alumni, guys like that. I mean, you please, by all means, bring them to my doorstep. Bring them to my doorstep. I can lift a little bit of weights, you know that. This needs to be defended on a grand scale. The only way that the people are going to know about this is if I defend them against true competitors. So I'm giving the faith. I'm giving the faith to Chris Envy. I'm putting the faith in the hands of Mike King, and I'm putting the faith in the hands of the people. I want to hear what the people who the people want to see me wrestle.
I have very little regard for the people, and even less for Mike King and Chris Envy.
This is the problem.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I think it needs
because you have to understand the people is what made me. That's what you have to understand, PJ. The people is what made me.
There is something I would like, RJ. You're a little bit more attuned to these things than I am. There's this ragtag group going around calling themselves totally independent. They've created quite the stir in the locker room.
Truly independent, but that shows how low they are
I would suggest humbly to Mr. Mike King and Chris Envy and whoever it is who is in charge there at Dynasty Wrestling, that Mike Verna is putting himself, along with me, in an unsafe working environment. And I would like to know exactly what's happening. I know you're a little bit more in tune. So if I may ask you, what is happening in that locker room right now?
I'm really glad you asked. I had Mike King on.
With us. They don't eat with us. They don't train with us.
They obviously don't train. They obviously don't train.
Interrupt the main event, then you've made an enemy of Mike Verna, and that's something you do not want to do.
They clearly don't train, so much so that they took kendo sticks to the head from a guy who has never been in a wrestling ring in his life, the general manager, Mike King. So if you call yourself a wrestler and Mike King hits you in the face with a kendo stick, you should hang up your boots immediately. Because that's the most embarrassing. That is the most embarrassing thing on your wrestling resume that could possibly happen, is that Mike King, a dude who made his own jacket for himself, hit you in the face with a kendo stick. That's embarrassing. I've been calling matches for 10 years up and down the East Coast. I've been in chaotic wrestling. It's where I got my start. John Cena's father had the job before me. He said, "Hey, you could probably do this job." I said, "You're right, I could," and I took over. That's the kind of guy that I am. I come in and I work for companies that put out quality talent, that put out quality matches, and I provide the commentary. I tell the story. I don't want to tell the truly independent story because it's garbage. Those guys don't have the skills that you have. It is a completely different show when you have these guys on the show. It looks like a terrible independent.
How are they getting into the building?
That's what needs
to be. There is a mole in your locker room, and I would like to know who it is.
Well, I'll tell you.
I'm not a genius. I'm very smart. I'm not a genius.
Someone's
I can connect the dots here.
Someone's opening the back door, and you know all about back doors there, RJ. So I want to know.
I do know that PJ is the pro at the backdoor action. But what I will say is this: the truly independent problem, from what I gather from Mike King, and I take what he says with a grain of salt.
Here's where you're doing it wrong, because you need to trust Chris Envy. Chris Envy is the original brain power behind Dynasty Wrestling. I think that's where you're messing up. Is Mike King the one we trust? Is Chris Envy the one we need to trust? This is the problem here. See, like I said, right. I was very clear. Both of them have done nothing but great things for me. But if you want to bring up truly independent, we're talking about guys like Eddie Edwards, Bobby Lashley, JT Dunn. I mean, names that are not even comparable to truly independent. And we're talking about them now. So this is what's getting me fired up. We should be talking about who I'm going to wrestle after Eddie Edwards as the TNA heavyweight champion and as the Dynasty Professional Wrestling champion. But what you need to realize and what you need to do, because I know you had some influence, that you got to find out. You need to start finding out what is going on with Truly Independent. What do they want? They already took Mike Orlando, a real wrestler. Okay, who's next? Who's next is the question.
Well, here's what I think is going to happen, and I think it's going to be a bring the shot of people. Truly Independent is likely not going to find themselves on shows going forward. When I talked to Mike King, I said this. There is a vacuum in upstate New York when it comes to professional wrestling. That 2CW was the standard bearer for a long time. They brought in big names and they had huge events in huge arenas. We, as a wrestling promotion, are heading in that direction. Mike King gave me his word that he is going to do that. I hold him and Envy accountable for that. Envy is bald. He has multiple children. He's got a lot of mouths to feed. And so in order for him to do that, he needs to bring in the best talent and make the most money he can. And so the way to do that is not to have Truly Independent in your life. You got to bring in big names. You have to bring in big names, and you got to have big shows. And I have gotten it straight from the front office in Dynasty Pro Wrestling that they are only bringing in big names. That's all they're going to do is bring in big names. So, gentlemen, I ask: Is there anyone? Is there any other? Are there any other?
It's the most.
He's got a lot of kids. He's got to feed them. And if he has big events, the kind of like we're talking about, the 2CW level events, if he has those kind of events, his children can eat. That's important because I want them to be able to eat. There's like 50 of them. They're babies, kids, and they all got to eat. Okay. What I want you to think about though is when we're talking Bobby Lashley's, when we're talking Eddie Edwards, we're bringing in big names. These are the kinds of talent I expect to see when I call matches. And what I said to Mike King very clearly is this: I'm not going to come back to a promotion and call matches. I'm at a point in my career where I've been doing this long enough. I don't want my name associated with the kind of talent that's Truly Independent. I want me on the internet calling matches for guys like Mike Orlando, for guys like you, for guys who come into it and train and look like professional wrestlers, that when you come out there, there's no question what you do for a living. You're not some janitor. You're a professional wrestler. Those guys come out looking like sloppy pieces of old meat left over in a truck. And there you are coming out looking like a professional wrestler.
Here's the problem. They're still here. This is the issue that we have. We sit here, we talk about what they look like.
My point is I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be. That's my point.
As Mike Orlando goes is you are who you associate yourself with. It's the way I look at it. He's chosen to associate himself with whatever they have going on, whatever little outfit that is. I've chosen to associate myself with the Man of Steel. And maybe there's a lesson to be learned about who you associate yourself with and what it does for you.
And I will certainly ride that gravy train before I even think about attaching myself to them, because what they do is a joke. And it's an affront to the work that guys like you put in, guys like me put in. I'm a professional commentator. I'm not somebody who's coming in and trying to learn how to call matches. I call matches like a pro. You go in and you wrestle matches like a pro. P.J. Stackpole manages like a pro. Well, I take that back immediately and regret saying it. The thing that sets us apart now is that this is professional wrestling. This isn't some independent show in some guy's backyard. This isn't a bunch of 16-year-old kids. These are grown men going out and putting on a wrestling show. When I talked to a friend of mine who was in the audience, who I didn't even know was at that Caro show, she came up to me and said, I didn't know what to think when I saw those first couple guys come out. It was Truly Independent. She said, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't even going to stick around because I didn't think you had a product that was worth watching. She said, and then I watched the rest of the show. And we got ECW originals there. We got Too Cold Scorpio doing, moonsaults off the top rope. We got hometown guys just absolutely murdering it. That was the kind of show that we're capable of. But you got to cut out the fat. And I don't mean that in a way to degrade my people. But
I agree.
You
and
have
they
to
got
cut
building
out.
somehow, and they got on the card somehow, and they got to the ring somehow. And that's not on me, and that's not on Mike Vernon. That's not on you, RJ. We know who that's on. It's on Mr. King and Mr. Envy. So the ball's for it. But if I have to show up to another building and have an event like we've had a few months ago with people storming the ring with objects and totally just devolving into something beyond what professional wrestling should be, then I'm going to ask for more money. And that's going to be a problem for Dynasty. So
it's gonna be a problem for Envy because he's got all those kids.
Be a happy man.
Yeah, I mean, Envy can't take the food off the table. He's got to feed the children.
They'll bring up the kids.
So what I want to say is this:
kids. How about that?
Feed Envy's kids. Hashtag feed Envy's kids. Now, what I want to say is this is a real opportunity to put Dynasty on the map, to put Amsterdam Elks Lodge as almost like a home base for Dynasty Pro Wrestling. I think the Elks Lodge, when we left last time, they all came up to me. I'm having a beer at the end of the show, and they came up to me and they said, "You got to come back here." And so when I talked to Envy and I talked to Mike King and we weren't sure where we were going to have this next show, I said, fellas, we got to get back to that Amsterdam Elks Lodge. That is going to be our home base. That's our product. It's a place where people are going to show up live to watch the events, and we're going to be able to put on a show with the kind of crowd, the kind of energy, the kind of real pro wrestling that the former home of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is capable of. They know they're wrestling there. And when they saw the talent we were putting out there, when they saw what we were showing, they immediately wanted it back. So we have to continue to bring that kind of level.
Are you telling me Envy and King heed your advice and take it seriously?
Well, I hope so too, because if left to their own devices, you got one just making babies everywhere, and you got one who's a complete bore. So the two of them are basically useless because
these people pay you salary.
Well, at the end of the day, though, I can walk away from it. Because, like I said, I'm only working with professionals. So if they bring in, the talent that's truly independent garbage like that, I'll walk away, gentlemen. It's not worth it to me because I don't want to have my videos out on the internet with me calling a match that has a bunch of scrubs in it. I'm not doing it.
I agree.
I don't want no scrubs.
I also agree that we're getting a little late in the hour. So how about you come up with some good questions real quick? I saw the interview with Mr. Mike King, and aside from wondering what me and Mike Verna talk about on our rides to New York, which is none of your business. I heard you play a word association game, so might that be a way perhaps you want to go before we start wrapping this thing up? Because Mike Verna and I are incredibly busy.
First of all, don't tell me how to run my show. Second of all, I'll ask any questions I want. Third of all, I'm about to make this podcast great again. Word association, Hillary.
I'll leave that to him.
I almost said an impolite word. Though I will say, do you want me to say like one word or I'll be brief?
Yeah, I mean, you said 15 words. It's word association. One word. First thing that comes to your mind.
One word, Hillary, criminal.
Okay. Next one, Orlando.
Number one contender.
Coward.
I was talking about Florida. So you're wrong.
Maybe my new home soon.
Ooh, look at this guy. Dropping hints. You heard it here first on the fourth wall, folks. P.J. Ooh, that took way too long.
Loyal.
Wow, that's sweet. You guys are going to kiss after this. It's gross. How's Section 8 paying your guys' housing? Is that good? How's that working out for you guys?
We live in the city. We don't live in Bumble wherever you live, sir.
Okay. Next one, Envy.
Scan your room with the camera, and we'll scan ours, and we'll let the people decide.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, leather couch. Oh, look at that.
Leather couch. I got a cat. Everything looks beautiful here. This is what happens when you make real money, fellas. Next word, champion.
Mike Verna.
You're looking at it. You're looking at him.
Superman.
Men in Black Kryptonian Wars coming to YouTube in the not so distant future.
2017. He's basically saying a fan film that I'm actually in. I'm playing Superman, so I am the new Superman. There's no doubt about it.
All right.
But yes, if you really want to ask about Superman, you're looking at the Superman of professional wrestling. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
Doctor Strange.
Leave that one to him.
Doctor Strange, haven't seen it, not interested. I'm a DC guy.
All right, it's good. It's in IMAX. I saw it in 3D today. It was pretty good. Dynasty Pro Wrestling.
The standard bearer in New York State and soon to be New York City once everything gets rolling. There's no doubt about that. People don't know what we're capable of. When people do know what we're capable of, you have no idea what's going to be. The sky is the limit, and I say that legitimately. If I didn't mean that, I would not be standing here with this belt right now.
In a word, professional.
Diamonds division.
Highly underutilized.
I would like to see much more of them.
Highly underutilized. Mistress Belmont? Where are you?
Where are you at? Agreed. Number one contender.
Where's he at?
I mentioned Mike Orlando as the number one contender when you mentioned him, so I'm going to go back on that. I'm going to say Mike Orlando like I tell you, questionable guy or not, you deserve your rematch. You're going to get your rematch. But I promise you right now, when that rematch happens, it's going to be for 2 belts, the TNA Impact Heavyweight Championship and the Dynasty Professional
Wrestling. I'll add an addendum to my answer. Eddie Edwards. Because make no mistake about it, Mike Verna is not challenging for the TNA Heavyweight title. Eddie Edwards is challenging for the Dynasty Heavyweight title. He's coming into our backyard against our champion. He needs to make the statement. He needs to prove himself.
Damn right.
Unwrestling related. Staying with Mike's, though. Piazza.
The greatest catcher of all time and the absolute, I mean...
I hear he catches and pitches.
That's bullshit, but Piazza
that's never been proven. That's never been proven, PJ.
And it won't be.
Oh, look at you. Like it wouldn't matter to you, you Democrat. Look,
he loves me. I'd love I'd give him all the rights in the world.
Tolerance stops at the door of your hero, Mike Piazza. Shame on you, sir. I'm offended.
All right, now, we were arguing about wrestling before. You don't talk about Piazza like that. That's for damn sure. Nothing like that happened to my
greatest catcher of all time. There is nobody even close to him.
Damn champion agrees with you.
Hands down.
The greatest hitting catcher that ever lived, period.
Oh, hits and catches.
Hands down.
Bartolo Colon. R.I.P.
Sexy. Oh, man. I'm going to miss him next year. I'm going to miss him
too. We're still going to get to watch him hit. That's what's important.
Oh, yeah.
Starting 5 for the Mets.
Oh, next year?
Is this what this has devolved into?
Noah, DeGrom. Oh, is it going to be healthy? I don't know about that. That I can't promise. But if it is healthy, Noah, DeGrom,
Mats,
Harvey. I'm going to give Harvey the 3-hole. I'm going to give Harvey. Mats and Wheeler. If he comes. If not, Gazelman.
Yep. He showed himself. PJ, I got one for you. Wall.
Southern Border.
Swamp.
It's going to be great. It's going to be huge. It's going to have a big, beautiful door in the middle of that big, beautiful wall through which we're going to allow legal immigration. It's going to be huge.
All it comes down to, we just want legality here. That's it.
I'll have you know, I spoke to Emperor Trump, despite your dissidence and your insolence. He is willing, because I've told him he's not that bad of a guy. He's willing to grant you a relatively quick and relatively painless death. And so you have that to look forward to. Our president-elect is sworn into office.
All I ask for is a quick death because the whole world is coming to an end. But before that happens, two more word associations. We're going to wrap this thing up. Most underrated.
I want to hear this in regards to what?
Dynasty.
In the Dynasty locker room as it speaks, or like all professional wrestling?
All of wrestling, whatever you want. Do it.
I'd rather stick with Dynasty because I want to promote our brand. So I'm going to stick with the Dynasty locker room. And that is, in my opinion, the most underrated right now. D3.
Okay.
Daniele. And that's no Italian bias right there, but he's a flyer, and I don't see that much in the upstate area. If he was in New York City, unfortunately, he probably just blends in like the rest of us. But upstate New York, they're used to arm bars and arm drags, and to see what he can do, I don't think he's been pushed to that level yet. If there was a cruiserweight type belt coming to Dynasty, I think he would be the premier of it.
Okay.
And what I mentioned earlier is I see that Wayno's starting to come out of his trance a little bit. And Mr. Man may not be poking things at him and
spiking
his Pop-Tarts and shit like that. But as soon as Wayno is maybe given a ball, I think Wayno can run with it as well. And that's just my observation. I was in the ring with Wayno, and he had a little bit of that, special strength for a politically correct term. And when he caught me when I wasn't looking, man, he bummed up my knee real good. Real good. You can watch the clip on that.
Can't help him.
What we like to say in a PC world, because that's where I live, gentlemen, is he has special skills. He has special skills. He's a special gentleman with special skills. Now, final word association. I'm going to wrap this up, and gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
Most overrated
in the Dynasty locker room.
The correct answer is Mike King. Gentlemen, it has been absolutely a pleasure to have you on here. This is The Fourth Wall. I am RJ Deluise, Pro Wrestling's premier prognosticator, joined by the manager of champions, P.J. Stackpole, and, of course, the finest heavyweight champion in Dynasty Pro Wrestling history, the one, the only,
first
Mike.
ever and only ever. But I will say this to answer your last question, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do this because I want to challenge you as a man. Mike Orlando, right now, in my eyes, you are the most overrated talent in our locker room, because until you change your ways and go back to being elite as you claim to be, overrated is all you're going to be, you green machine.
Wow.
I'm with you, baby.
Shots fired. This has been the Fourth Wall. This has been the most entertaining segment we have done. The only other one to compare to was Mike King. So obviously this was going to be most entertaining. Even if I took a crap on the floor, it would have been more entertaining than what we had with Mike King. Gentlemen,
one last thing, RJ. One last thing. Gentlemen's bet. Mike Verna, Eddie Edwards. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Mike Verna in this one. You heard it here first.
Well, this isn't going to be very exciting, is it? You seem to be in agreement.
We are in agreement. I'm not taking it.
Do it.
You know why?
Do one more then. Let's do one more. By pinfall or by submission?
I think there is going to be some chicanery in that matchup. I don't think it's going to be a clean matchup. I think you're going to be a problem. I think you're going to have to be contended with. Yep.
Does he know
you're the wild card in this matchup. I think you're going to find yourself getting way too involved, and that could be the difference for the
apparently
end of the
he's a genius. Apparently he's a genius. I find you offensive, and I think this interview has far outlived its usefulness.
Do you know something?
Go find a safe place and cry it out, okay? Maybe you two can hug it out. Maybe you guys can have a little mocha latte, a little pumpkin spice latte, and hug it out.
You're the one
troublemaker.
Well, I'm not the one who creates problems for Mike Verna. Mike Verna had the match in hand, and you threw him the
jealous? Belt. What do you want to walk to the ring with him, you big stooge?
I do like him.
So. Okay, well, there you go. Listen,
perhaps I will.
Online, we sell them.
I don't have time for all that. On behalf of Dynasty Pro Wrestling, I am RJ Deluise. This has been the Fourth Wall. We will see more of you at Amsterdam Elks Lodge. You better be there. If you don't have tickets, you better buy them. DynastyProWrestling.com. Find us on Facebook. Find us on the Twitter. Check us out. Mike Verna, P.J. Stackpole, you're a train wreck. Mike Verna, real pleasure. And we will be in your town soon.